So part of working with Joe is we meet weekly, typically on the telephone, and then quarterly. The reason he's here today is I said, hey, when you're here, for your 2.5 days for our quarterly meet, can we spend a couple hours doing WPO? And he loves YPO Gold. I'm confused, Kim. YPO, I'm going to just go with that because that's what we all. He did, doesn't he? We'll blame him for sure. But anyhow, we have weekly meetings, and so I've had about 120 with Joe so far, and I don't miss them. And I can say all 120 or so have had such an incredible impact. And if anybody else that works with Joe would raise their hand and say the same thing about the impact on there, of course, then you have to divulge it. You're working with this guy. Thank you, Molly and Steve Nelson. The week after week, when you think, oh, it's just going to be another call, how are we going to fill up an hour? It's just amazing. But I mean, you're kind of weird. You're an unusual dude, as these people are figuring out quickly because they're sharp. But how do you do that? I mean, how do you every week give back that value and that powerful impact week after week? Because it's not just these three. I mean, you're booked day after day, hour after hour. I mean, you are on all the time. How the heck do you do that?
I learned from one of the top psychoanalysts in the world that one of the most important things to do when you're with another human being is to be fully and empathically in the moment with the other. It's not just what they're talking about, it's how they're saying it, it's why they're saying it now, it's how much affect they have about what they're saying. All of those things are information that you can hear them share their information with you. And that will tell you where to take the conversation. I've had conversations where clients would say, and I'll point Molly out because I think you said this a couple weeks ago, I don't know if I should prepare for these calls. And I said, no, talk to me, right? Talk to me. And the call ends up being very fruitful because the way the mind works is, I don't know if it was a commercial or something. You ever see this thing, the mind is a terrible thing to waste? Did you ever hear that? No, it's not true. The mind's just a terrible thing. Excuse the French, but it is, because it's deceptive. Your mind deceives you. My mind deceives me. It doesn't say what it really wants to say because it doesn't even know itself. If I construct it very, very simply, you've got a primitive mind. We've got this primitive mind with an amygdala in the back. And basically, it senses fear. That's to keep you safe from the saber-toothed tiger that might run out from the rock. And as the human beings developed, we developed the right frontal cerebral cortex. It knows language and logic. The problem is these two don't talk to each other very well. They're connected by this neocortex of billions of nerves. It's somewhere in there as a confluence. Now, when you feel fear, you'll feel fear. Your nervous system will go into a sympathetic mode, your palms sweat, you lose your peripheral vision, shortness of breath, faster heartbeat, you get stronger, adrenaline flows. In a parasympathetic mode, your heart beats normal, you breathe normal. This guy goes off and you want to know what you should be afraid of. And sometimes he tells you. Sometimes you make it up. You literally just you feel fear, you know you should be afraid, you happen to be talking to somebody at the moment, and all of a sudden your amygdala goes off and you go, you know what, I don't like her. And nothing she said. You ever have that happen? Anybody? This is the way the mind works. And I have to be able to hear when I talk to a client every week what it is we should be talking about, which is more like a psychotherapist than a business advisor. But when I can hear the mind and I can understand it, we can start to talk about why we think that way. The second thing that kicks in, my answer's too long?
Ask your
too
audience.
Long? Okay, the second thing that kicks in, Freud's third lecture, but I call in the book the greatest desire is to be right. Our greatest desire is not to be loved, or people wouldn't be in abusive relationships and then get out of them and get back in them. Our greatest desire is to be right. We'll fight for that because that harbors your sanity. Even if you're not happy, you're right about it. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it even if it hurts. And the mind is made up of a narrative, a self-narrative. Some of it's true. Some of it's complete crap. But you believe all of it to be true, and you will defend it all. And you will behave to it, and you can't change the behavior until you can see another notion in your mind. When you can adapt to a new notion, you could say, oh, we could be this. He was looking for a leadership team that's never started a business or helped a business pivot, and asking them to do this. They're nice people. Couldn't do it.
Yeah, because we were the stories we told ourselves. Everybody saw ourselves through the lens of being a temporary staffing business. To make this pivot into an adjacent strategy and use the competencies that we have in a new way, it was just, they were scared.
I didn't know how to get him to realize it without defense. So I went around the table, I said, tell me, write down the greatest thing you bring to this company. The number one greatest thing. And you know what they all but one person said?
We care.
We care. That's the greatest skill they're bringing to the table as a strategist to help him pivot. It's important to care, but that's the number one thing I'm bringing to the table today. I said, let's all hold hands and sing Kumbaya. But it doesn't solve anything. I had a company that had a parent company, and they were having trouble to determine what the parent company really should be. And so I surveyed all the people that use the services, the shared services. You probably have central offices and shared services and so on, but this is a company with a number of divisions, and I needed to find out, what are we doing because we've always done it? What are we doing because we need to change it? Because it's not valued. It was hard for this leadership team to grasp that, so I said, we're going to go around the room, write down a metaphor for what the parent company is to you. What is the metaphor of the parent company? Now I have their mind. I have their mind. I have an understanding. One guy said a puffer fish. They make me bigger than I am in my purchasing and so on. Another one said translator, because they do business with a country that they need to have all that stuff done and they don't want to deal with that stuff. And then I started to understand, several of them said, good parent. And herein lies the problem. We don't need a parent. Make sense? So I talk to the mind, because the mind will tell me what I need to hear. And I talk to the collective mind of an organization, because they'll tell me what I need to hear. And then my job from there is to analyze and understand. And then have them understand themselves. Here's who you think you are, here's who you say you are, here's the difference in who you really are. And when they can grasp and understand this, and they understand the difference between who they really are and who they need to be to get what they want, not what I want, at their pace, not at my pace, at their comfort level, not at my comfort level, they could see the difference of what they need to change. But if I think I'm here, cameraman just woke up. If they think I'm here, if I think I'm here, and I want to go there, I can walk this way. I know where I'm at, know where you are, right? If you think you're there, but you're over here, you're going to fall. You have to know where you are in a map to find anything. And knowing your mind, collectively an individual in an organization, is knowing where you are. And sometimes you can't get there from here because you're not here. Nelson, can I tell him what I asked you? What Nelson called me to work with me. You mind? You want to tell it? Okay. Nelson's a dear friend, and he calls me up, and Nelson's company is third generation. It's a great company. I love working with them. And they're in, what's the name of that city? Spring Lake and Grand Haven. And it's a great family tradition company, and Nelson does a great job leading it. And he called me up and he says, I got a friend says I have to hire you. I said, I like him. He says,
It wasn't me either.
no, it wasn't Mark.
Don't you be blaming me, Nelson.
And he says, why should I hire you? I said, if I could tell you about you and the building you're sitting in, would that be enough? And he says, yeah. So I told him a little bit about himself. And he said, what about the building? I said, it's built like a fortress. It's got a bunch of pictures of dead white guys on the wall. What he learned in that exchange, it's not an insult. What he learned in that exchange is it's candor. It's candor that I need to understand you, you need to understand you from where you are to move to where you want to be. So let's talk. Does it make sense?